Some of you may be wondering why I didn't start removing the engine and trans out of this Foxbody to start the Coyote swap. Well, this is why. Now, when I bought this car, I did not expect it to be anywhere near this good. I expected it to run and drive, but I literally drove it 70 miles home from when I bought it. Now, granted, I don't think any of the steering or suspension had ever been changed or replaced since it was new. So after I put about $200 to $300, $400-ish of steering and suspension into the Foxbody, I daily drove it for 6 months. But I think it's time to retire the old in-cam block 5.0 that's original to this car and replace it with the death trap of what we call Coyotes. It's a bittersweet moment. Why fix something when it's not broken? Well, that's a stupid question. I want to go fast.
I want to go fast.
But really, this is a good engine and trans, and I want to do something cool with it, like putting it into a Fairmount wagon or LTD wagon with the same Foxbody platform. I believe the LTD wagon was built off the Foxbody platform, but the Fairmount definitely was. So I want to find one of those, throw the engine and trans that's in this into that, and then have a cool grocery getter dad car. Anyway, I'm on the lookout for that. If you know anybody with one, let me know. Anyway, we're going to move on to today's video. Today, we are going to be installing the headers, engine mounts, and K-member onto the Coyote engine. Starting off with the headers from Speed Engineering. So I decided to go with the Speed Engineering headers because they fit the UPR K-member. The other option I had was a set of headers from SVE. The reason why I didn't go with them is because they didn't have the option to add multi-layer steel gaskets, O2 extension harnesses, and then the other thing was the weldable ball and socket flanges. Out of pure convenience, I went with Speed Engineering. As far as I could, give me a second. Ow. Nice. As far as I could tell, or the research I did, I guess, the Speed Engineering headers and the SVE headers are pretty much identical as far as specs go, and as far as price goes too. So, like I said, out of pure convenience, I just went with Speed Engineering. I should also mention that these headers do fit the 10R80 too. So they fit with the K-member, the UPR K-member, they fit with the 10R80, and they fit into the Foxbody. Like I mentioned, the price is the same, which was $400. The way I optioned my headers with the add-ons, it came out to a total of $604.50. which honestly isn't a bad deal considering I had an option with those 3 add-ons. I'm gonna finish getting the rest of this exhaust manifold unbolted, and then going to actually remove the engine mount here. Actually, I'll probably do that before because I need to get to a bolt under here because we are also removing and installing new motor mounts. So, like I said, I'm gonna finish this up and then move on to the motor mounts. You are following along at home and also doing this, the headers that I got, did not know, also came with some hardware. I'm not going to be reusing studs, so I'm going to take them out, and all that takes is this is like a reverse Torx or E-Torx or something like that. Usually see it on European cars, but these studs are E8s. The nuts to take off the exhaust manifold were 15 millimeters, and the O2 sensors, I am going to be reusing I think it would be, I guess, the upstream O2 sensor, so the one closest to the engine or closest to the exhaust ports here. So I cracked those loose before I removed exhaust manifold. The O2 sensors is 7/8 or 22 millimeter. They do make a special socket that the wires can slide through. And then I had to use a crow's foot style one for the other one because it's so close to the transmission right here. But yeah, I wanted to take those off before I removed the exhaust manifold bolts because it would have been harder to take them off once I removed it. Removed the old manifold. Sorry about that. Knocked you guys over there. But I almost got the stud out. Cool. Now I can get this guy out. And that's it. That's it for the removal of the old manifolds. So now we'll go on with the motor mounts real quick and then put the new headers on. To the motor mounts here, I guess you could say universal motor mount for 4 modular engines. So the 4.6, 5.4, 5.0, and 5.2 engines work and fit for those. What they mean by adjustable is these nifty little, oh man, I get all fucked up now. So what they mean by adjustable is these little pucks here that all lock into each other. They got a little lip there and indent there, so they can all lock into each other when you're trying to adjust the engine up or down in the engine bay. You can adjust these a 1/2 inch higher than stock, or 1/4 inch lower than stock. So the stud here in the middle does fully come out. So when you are trying to figure out how many spacers you need, you can remove just the center stud here, and then everything else stays in place. And then you can adjust from there. Or if you need to change out these polyurethane bushings, you can also do that without having to remove the entire bracket. So that can save you some time. For a urethane bushing in there, The option that I got with the K-member package was a street strip style bushing. So it's a little bit stiffer than what you would get with a stock or OEM style engine mount. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this install. Maybe not. So there was this ground on the old engine mount. It had a stud. It had a stud like this with a nut. But since I'm not going to be using a stud, I'm just using a regular bolt. I might have to end up grinding down, sanding down on that. Well, maybe I could slip it in behind and go right to the... Maybe I'll do that. Let me try flattening this out, and then I'll get back to you guys. What I ended up doing with that ground wire was just using a pair of pliers to bend those tabs flat, and then I just put it behind the engine mount here, and then it is going to be directly touching the engine block. So now that that's done, I'm going to tighten this engine mount down, and then move on to installing the headers, or move back to installing the headers. Cool, got the motor mount installed now. Move on to installing this here long tube header. I wish I had some compressed air in the garage, but I don't, so brake clean's gonna do just fine. And then I'm actually going to put the tiniest bit of anti-seize. I put the tiniest bit of anti-seize on it, just so that these don't get seized into the engine or into the head. If you are going to be putting anti-seize onto any bolt, and I guess a general PSA on anti-seize and bolts, make sure you put it in by hand, because anti-seize is a thread lubricant. So you don't want to be going balls to the wall with it. Oh shoot, I forgot to put the gasket on. With a power tool. This anti-seize that I'm using is a high temp copper anti-seize up to 2000 degrees, so I'd be pretty impressed if I can get this head up to 2000 degrees. The header here has a slot on the bottom two. Hopefully you guys can see that right here. That's why I put those two bolts in. It should just go on. So it appears that the starter is getting in the way. I can't remember when I was researching Coyote swaps if you needed a different starter. I want to say there was something saying you need a different starter, but I can't remember. And if that is the case, then I might have to hold off on putting at least this side header on. So these headers are 1 7/8 inch headers made of 304 stainless steel, and they have a CNC flange up here, and it goes down to a 3-inch collector. Like I mentioned, I put some anti-seize on these bolts just to prevent any sort of corrosion. No raw dog in it here. Alright. Gotta use a little protection. Cool. Got that on. Well, it appears that, well, I'm gonna have to do something about this wiring for this starter. it does fit. Everything, the starter does fit, so that's not an issue. But this wiring does go into, or lays on the header here, on this, I guess, primary. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, sure. Let me try tightening down the header and seeing if that gives me more room to get this on. Cool, got it to work. If you're following along at home, pulled that wiring harness out from the oil pan that it was clipped into, and then I just re-angled that. So it worked. All right. Let's finally get these headers completely installed. Cool, gonna call that good here. As far as the torque spec for these, I don't know. The only thing I could tell you is what the header manufacturer, any header manufacturer would probably tell you, is to get or to use the factory torque spec. I just went about 5 Ugga-Duggas and a German torque of Gudentite, so I didn't go too crazy with it though, because you are going into an aluminum head, so you don't want to be ripping these threads out trying to tighten down your headers. And there's probably a torque pattern you also follow, which I clearly did not. But now, wait, hang on, one more thing. Since I did say I was going to use the O2 sensors, here is O2 extension. Well, shit. Well, I don't know how I feel about this now. I guess zip ties, but yeah, that's not sure how I feel about that. So probably just zip tie it right there, and then maybe up to this harness over here. But yeah, the other side, I already got the head off, stock exhaust manifold off. So all I need to do is throw on the motor mount and the header. So. so I got the K-member here, and this K-member came in an entire K-member package from UPR, and that base package will run you right around $1,370, and that comes with coilovers, camber caster plates, bump steer kit, and back bushings. Obviously, I got a little bit more than that, as you can see in the B-roll. I got, well, I'll tell you the stuff that came with, that you can option with it. You can add on the K-member hardware kit, which I got. I just got the standard kit. There's a standard and a master kit. I got the coilover thrust bearing kit. You can option to have tow hooks. I think there's a weldable option and a bolt-on option. And then you have motor mounts, which obviously I got. I just showed you guys that. Motor mount shims, you can option those. You can get 1/4 inch or 3/8 shims. The flowing river steering rack you can option. I believe that's a manual steering rack. And then finally an oil pan saver. So that's all the stuff you can get optioned. The stuff that I got, the motor mount shim kit, hardware kit, coilover thrust bearing kit, that ran me $1,828 after taxes. So I think I'm just going to mock this up for now. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm waiting to get a hold of UPR so I can ask them for some instruction or guidance on how these engine mounts go in. And then also there is 3 different spots you can put the engine mounts into this K-member. So I got to figure out which one that is. But I think for now, I think I am just going to, I'm just going to throw everything on, or I guess the K-member on, and then I'll call them, and then if I did it wrong, then I will obviously let you guys know, and then fix it. Alrighty, so one of the issues I'm running into now is this is the trans cooler lines, and they are right in the way of getting this K-member in. I think I'm going to try to force it in, but I think the best solution will actually be to bend these so it fits. But I also don't know, I'll have to look into it. I don't know if they make a trans cooler line and actual cooler itself kit for the Foxbody swap with the Coyote. So I'll try working it in now, but I might be taking it out later. Alrighty, got the the trans cooler. There we go. Words are hard. Trans cooler lines out of the way. Now I can get this K-member on. Jeez. Sorry, I got so freaking frustrated with those trans cooler lines that now I can't talk. I don't know what retard juice Ford was sipping on making those trans cooler lines, but they need to stop sipping on it. And I'm not going to, well, I think I still might call UPR just to make sure this is in right, but as of now it's fitting. So I think I guessed correctly on the maybe. This side is not lining up quite as well as the other side. Let me try tightening it up all the way and then seeing if that makes it any better. Figure out what size those nuts are. What size are my nuts? Before I completely tighten those motor mounts up. I mentioned earlier that center thread can come out, so it's easier to adjust. When you're trying to go up and down to make clearance. So I'm going to make sure that those are bottomed out, tightened down as much as they can be. I think it's tightened down all the way. Alrighty guys, got the K-member in, got the motor mounts in, got the headers on. That about wraps it up. I didn't end up calling UPR because I think it really the motor mount, and the K-member can really only go on one way. So I don't know, maybe when I go to actually install it in the car, maybe I'll call them if it's not lining up and seeing if maybe I did get that wrong. But for now, I'm gonna call that a win. But yeah, that's gonna be a wrap for this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and we will catch you on the next one. Some of you may have wondered why I didn't start the Coyote swap with removing the engine on the Foxbody. Well, because this is why. But I think it's time to replace the in-block cut.